Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester. And I'm kind of thinking that you probably are too if you're watching content like this, or either you're on the way to controlling and shaping and co-creating those manifestations so that you can have a life that you are enjoying and that you have elements of ownership over and that you are happy with, right? The name of the channel is Manifesting Magic with Dr. J. Yeah, that's me, whatever. Anyway, three things to look for in supportive friendships, right? So, when you're out there looking for friendships, so there's a such thing that's called trauma bonding, which is one of those things that happens often when you are in struggle or survival mode at some point in your life and or uncertainty mode, and you run into people who are also in that same place. And then you kind of form a friendship based on that, right? I had friendships that were really based on a long time ago when I got divorced. A friend of mine, she was getting divorced too from her husband at the time, and we were all friends. This was like a friend group, and so we knew the husbands and everybody, the wives. We all knew each other, and we would hang out. And our children were very little; they're all the same ages now, and we would be in these groups, and a lot of the times it was bemoaning how unsatisfied we were with marriages or with the men we were with or with the circumstances or somebody's, lied to someone, stepped out on someone, cheated, all these sort of little things that you're dealing with when you get married in your 20s and stuff like that. And so when it's unhealthy, because everybody doesn't deal with it, when it's unhealthy, those kind of things. So you start to create a relationship based on the problems that you have in your life. And so that's what trauma bonding is. So I find that once we went through divorces and once we complained about child support and once we complained about like not having freedom, all these things that come along with being new moms and realizing that you don't come first anymore and that you don't have the physical freedom that your counterpart probably has. So all these things in getting bitter with it, like when you get past it, sometimes you don't have a friendship anymore because you never bonded over anything that was beyond what we hated in relationships, right? So it's important to know to make intentional friendships, intentional relationships, intentional couplings, because when you're very intentional, you can be really clear about your values and your beliefs in the ones that work for you, right? So number one is, I find is a real good indicator, right? When you talk about your dreams or your hopes or stuff that you're working on or trying to do, they have an organic interest and they light up because they're truly happy that you have something beautiful going on in your life, right? So you ever see, like you look on some YouTube videos and you go down the road and some people have all these beautiful, amazing comments that people send to them and there's nothing but positivity and love. And you're just like, man, I know this person has been doing it right. Even if they've been at it for 20 years and it took them forever to be, to be able to share their gifts with the world and to be able to live in that space and to be the change that they always wanted to see in the world. You know it because you can tell by the way the world responds to them. And it's not even in like a God sense. It's more like, oh, you're beautiful and I'm so happy this is for you. So when you come across people and they organically are interested in what you have going on, they ask you about, oh, how was it growing up in New Orleans or something if you're a person that's from the city? How was it growing up in Marrero, Louisiana? Because that's where I'm from. How was it growing up? How is it raising two daughters and, being a stay-at-home mom still and working that out? Like they ask you questions because they want to understand what makes you you and why are you so great. I find when people don't do that and they don't inquire and they don't dig any deeper into you, you're really just like a pawn in their story. Like you meet all the criteria of a friendship or a mate person that they want. So you're just like another novelty to stick on their shelf, right? Like I got ownership over this type of thing. This is what I always wanted. But you'll know when they don't dig any deeper into who you are as a person, right? Like who you were before you met them, the day that you met them, right? And you'll see that in people. And it's usually very self-centered people. And so you kind of like, if I go down the road with this kind of friendship, is this person even going to be, worth my time? And I can't even say that I've been the best of a kind of friend because I've always been a little flaky and moody in my ways. But I've always been extremely interested in people. Like when I find people and get to know them, I like to hear about all their childhood, what they went through, how many siblings they got. And I ask a lot of questions. I do that now. I still do that. Like, what are your relationships like? Or who's like this? And do they look alike? I just want to know who this person was before I ran into this amazing version of you that's sitting right in front of me. So when you meet authentic people that are evolved to the level of emotional intelligence that's going to be mutually beneficial, you'll find that, right? And number two, ask yourself, do you feel like your full self in their presence? Do you feel as if you're holding something back, or you're not being able to be who you are, like the good, the bad, the ugly, like, you're sharing information about yourself? Do you feel like you can't be that authentic self, and it's not a vulnerable place to be that authentic self? That's important, because I'm not the kind of person that believes you should give your whole self to anybody all the time. That's just not, nobody needs that. They got their whole selves. They got their own whole selves to deal with. I used to work in a department over at a university, and I remember they were saying that our department had the most cohesiveness, and they were most peaceful and easy, right? Compared to the other departments that were on the floor who did different functions for the university. And they were like, what's the secret, right? And it was not a conference, but like a workshop on bringing your whole self to work, and everybody should be empowered to be 100% of who they are in the workplace, right? And so they asked our group, what was it that made our group special, and what did we have to share about the aspect of bringing your whole self to work? And one of the ladies that I work with was like, we don't bring our whole selves to work. That's why we get along so well. And it's so true. I mean, because really, dude, like, the workplace is not the time for you to be breaking down and talking about your divorce with people. If you got a good friend there, that happens, so what? We all lose it sometimes. It happens, right? You've seen people that you've never seen lose it in their life, and they lose it. People lose it. It's human, right? So it's no big deal, but just the continuance of being that person that everybody has to pat on the back and who always has a problem or an issue with something, that means you're too outwardly focused, right? You're too focused on the outside, right? So do you feel like you can be yourself in the present, but like a legitimate version of yourself that is, that doesn't push us through other people's boundaries or make them uncomfortable or make them, feel burdened by your emotions or something like that? Like, can you just be loose and be yourself? I was on Reddit, probably not the best place to get information, but I was there anyway. Reading this question, this girl was talking about, and I might have talked about this in another video, but no, this wasn't one. I told my daughter this, and she just fell out laughing. She was talking about whether she was not a good person, and she says, I don't have any friends, and I don't have any boyfriend or something like that. And she said, so I always thought that I was a good person, but I must not be. And it just made me laugh, because I'm just like, man, we all deal with this kind of stuff. And her measurement is no friends and no boyfriend. What if the people she got rid of were toxic, and she is more healthier now than she's ever been? So you have to be sure about those values and beliefs, because if you know why you're single, then you better stay single. Don't be listening to people talking about marriage and baby showers and all this kind of stuff. If you know you're okay with being where you are, stay there, because the world's values can't be your own. And she was saying how she does have a wicked kind of dark sense of humor. Well, I got a dark sense of humor. My brother does too. So there's like some jokes that I don't tell nobody but my brother, because he the only person that's not going to go, oh God, that's awful, is a wicked laugh. He said the other day that when I send him a text message, it's like the devil on his left shoulder. I don't mean to be, but I feel the same way with those messages too. Because it's like, you got to have these people where you're able to just be that raw self, where you're able to just talk about things in your life and just like, bleh, you know what I mean? Because if you can't do that, then you got to go get a therapist, right? And so she was just saying that's how she is. And she was just like, she was a moderator of a Facebook group. And I know I got off track, but this is a pretty good story. She was a moderator of a Facebook group, and she had another moderator with her. They were both admins, right? And so the group was some type of, whatever they were into. And so she told the other girl who was in the group, after they finished making all the rules and the manifesto and all that kind of stuff, what happens if somebody does this, whatever. She was just like, now that we're done, she said, I can't wait until somebody breaks the rules so I can kick them out. And the girl that was with her looked at her like this. Oh. And I'm telling you, there's nothing worse, especially if you have some childhood wounds of some shame or some guilt. and you make a joke like that and somebody looks at you and does like this, it's like, it feels terrible. And she said she just wanted to disappear in that moment because of the way the girl reacted. And like everybody in the thread was like, girl, you need to find new friends, because there are people that think that would think that is very funny. And it's not a negative thing. It's just the way that she sees the world. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's not like holding her up in life. So I'm just like, maybe try injecting yourself in different types of friend groups. Maybe you're around people that you don't mix with that well. Or maybe you do need to take the sharpness off in order to fit into some environment that's important to you, whatever. But the point is, though, even her with the dark sense of humor, you need to be in places where your presence, you don't feel like you need to adjust 80% of yourself just to be, right? You might have to adjust 5%, maybe 10% sometimes, but you shouldn't have to adjust a very large portion of yourself in order to just relax and hang out with someone, right? And then number 3, on the backside of that, when they talk about things that are important to them, are you interested, right? Because sometimes people talk about things that's important to them and you don't find yourself being interested, but then you'll get on the phone and talk to someone else and then you're very interested. So it's not that you're the kind of person that's not very interested in what people have going on. You may just not be interested in what that person has going on, right? So what kind of friend you might be in that scenario where you just don't think that they're interested or what they have going on is interesting. You may not be a very supportive one, because kind of like the stuff that they're into or that they're creating and what they're doing, you don't find interesting. So you don't have that to share with each other. And if that's a big part of their life and who they are, then you probably are not going to go down the road of that friendship, right? It won't be conducive. It won't be evenly yoked. I love that term because it's so true. You have to be evenly yoked with people on some level in order to make things expand, right? And if you don't share in their excitement, it may say a lot about you. It may say that maybe you are too self-centered at this moment to have a good supportive friend. Maybe you are not in a space where you're willing to give out something that you're asking for from other people or that you'd like to receive or something like that. You may get to that place where you just like, wow, if I didn't get this from someone, maybe it's because I didn't give it. Or then sometimes on the other end of that, you do give it. You give it a lot, right? Somebody has like some kind of business they're working on. You might be like, oh, that would be so nice. Let me get them business cards since they don't have them. You know, they got like products. You're like, oh, they don't have any product decals. Let me get some product decals they can stick on it. Or they might be working on a particular goal or something like that. They want to, one day meet Beyonce. And you're just like, hey, let me get them this honeycomb game. You're going to meet Beyonce one day because you're a part of the Beehive. And I'm going to get you this game right here so you can have something to stare at and remember it. That's the kind of stuff supportive friends do and people do, right? When you have projects or things, I used to make a lot of movies and videos. I mean, my family used to watch all of it. I used to make video productions. I would bring that little camera around because I've been making videos since like 99, 2000. I've been carrying around a video camera. I bring that camera around and I make these little videos and edit them, which editing used to take forever, then burn it to a DVD. And I'd be like, yes, and family would get together. Everybody watch my videos. Oh, wow, you did that. And that would be the thing, right? So sometimes you get in places to where you have done supportive things and you have gone out of your way to show someone that you care about their dreams or their hopes or the things that they want to accomplish in life. And then when it's not reciprocated, you can let that start to bother you, or you can decide, okay, well, this friendship is not one that I necessarily want to have because this person never calls me and says, oh, how are your daughters? How are you doing? But you've done it several times with them. And it's not that you're taking score, it's that you're looking for the type of reciprocation that you expect in a relationship. It's the same thing you will go do if you're looking for a job somewhere. You don't say, oh, this is my dream job. And then they tell you you're going to pay you $25,000 a year. You're like, well, hell, I can't even support my children like that. $25,000 a year, but the title is amazing, right? So you have to think about it, right? This place is not reciprocating to me back the value that I know that I want, the beliefs that I have and what I want to extract or receive in a relationship or an environment, right? So you have to keep that in mind. So one, their dreams, they light up when they hear about your stuff. Number two, do you feel like you can be yourself at ease about them? And these are just my basic baseline things. Everybody can have so many different things that's so much more important to them, but these are just my things, right? And just like, do you share in their excitement? Do you find them interesting? Because I think it's not good to just collect people and you don't really care, but you just so extroverted that you just collect people, right? Like I've met people that had like 200 contacts in their phone, and I'm like, dude, 200 contacts. And it depends on what you do. 200 contacts may be necessary, but for like the average lot of us, 200 is a bit excessive, right? Even I remember when Facebook first came out, it was a big deal to have a lot of friends on there, more than 200, because in real life, you really didn't have more than 200 friends, but these were just people that you collected along the way. They may not serve a purpose in your life on a major level anymore, but you've collected them. And I'm not of the business of just collecting people just for the sake of it. It has to be some type of a really specific role that's in my space. And I want to be a really specific role in their space too, right? I think it only makes sense. It's not negative. It's just establishing what it is that you expect. Because I'll be honest with you, when you meet with people and you really don't get what you expect, or you don't receive back what you expect, it will turn you off. It can't help but to, right? And what you expect and what you desire and what you want is usually based on like all of the things that's happened to you and where you've come to at that point. And just because somebody's not giving it to you, you can't make yourself feel less valued or less important. You have to remember, oh, wait, I'm in charge of my relationships and my friendships. I really don't like this. And I thought I was okay with this, but this just doesn't work for me. And then you decide, okay, what kind of friendship is this going to be from now on? Am I going to keep it as a deep friendship, or am I going to keep it as like a more of a shallow one where we know each other on LinkedIn? We're really good with each other and we may grab lunch once a year, or we may put in a good word for each other if we're looking for a new job or career, or we may like each other's posts when we're sharing articles and things that's important to us, or share things with other people, right? They may buy your books or whatever it is, right? Whatever's important to you, that's the level at which you should create those relationships and friendships, right? When you start creating them on other people's terms, just because maybe you don't have a plan or maybe you just didn't think that deeply into it, one thing's for sure, you're going to notice real quickly what's important to you and friendships and relationships when you start getting real close and start dealing with people on a regular basis, because that's the only way to figure out how much you've grown and what you need to grow in and how far you need to go and what's important and what's not, is when you start butting heads and getting up close and personal with people. As long as you stay on the surface level, you can stay in your little la-la land of I'm so great and perfect and everybody else is nuts. But then you come down to reality, you're just like, hey man, I may not be so great and perfect and maybe everybody else isn't nuts, but I know that specifically I would like to see this in a friendship. And if I don't have that as a friendship, then we're really not going to have a lot of connection and chemistry as we go forward. It's not a negative thing. It just is. And some people don't do this. And what they find is they don't create these boundaries and these standards off the beginning. Then they create long relationships and connections with people that they eventually have to break off or run away from, because that same behavior they didn't like 2 years ago is still there later on. And it's just what it is, because we're all people and we do it and we like being around other people. And sometimes we take them no matter what and condition they're in. And then once the newness of the person wears off, we like, oh my God, what do I got? What do I got here? Who am I? Who are they? And if you can do that ahead of time, you're so much better off, right? No more making friends and relationships by default. It's not acceptable, because when you do it by default, you're on their terms, and you can't really be on anybody's terms for very long, because you're your own person, you're an independent thinker, and it's going to get old. So 3 important things. That's my 3. You think about your 3. Your 3 might be my 3. It could be your 3, your 2, 1 of mine, 1 of yours, 2 of mine, whatever yours are. Make sure you have that plain and clear to you, and that you're just not walking around just being nice and kind to people. Those are great things, and it's great to be nice and kind. But at the end of the day, if it's hollow and you don't have any depth in your relationship or friendship that you desire to have, then you're going to be wasted. It's not going to be worth your time, right? And you're in charge of your time. Anyway, I hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful day. And until next time, like, subscribe, share, and peace.